What's up, my Naija people? How una day? Now, you know that Atiku Abubakar recently came back to Nigeria. Basically, after the primaries, which produced him as the presidential candidate of the PDP, he actually jetted out of the country and he's been out of the country since then. And he just recently came back, and I guess he's fired up for the campaigns. And so Arise TV got him to do this interview. And it's actually the very first interview by Atiku Abubakar after he emerged as the PDP presidential candidate for the 2023 presidential election. And he said a couple of things. He said a number of things. Well, some parents have criticized that probably should have been a live interview, and they've not been very impressed with the fact that it was a recorded conversation. Well, I think we can cut Atiku some slack. We still have many more interviews to come. The conversation is just getting started, so I want to believe that Atiku Abubakar will have to do many more interviews and probably may want to see how he can also have live interviews and all of that, which some persons believe would make more impact and the best way to engage going into such a major election. I think that makes sense. But for now, I think we can make do what we have. Let's get into some of the things that Atiku said, and as watered down as some people may think the interview was. I think there's a lot that came out of it. Especially as Channels TV had to also get Peter Obi to do a kind of what I would call a counter interview where he also responded to some of the things that Atiku Abubakar had said. Now, I'm not going to be looking at some of the personal issues now, especially those that borders on the Labour Party presidential candidate and Atiku. I want to look at more important issues. The elections are drawing closer by the day. The campaigns will be opening soon, and I think we should begin to look at even more deeper issues. We should begin to look at more salient issues that affects us as a people and as a country going forward. So personally, I want to be focusing on more serious issues. Let's begin to take the candidates on issues of power, electricity, issues of security, issues of food supply, issues of economy, and international relations and all of that. So today I want to compare what Atiku and Peter Obi said. I want to highlight their position as regards what they can possibly do to help the power situation in Nigeria. I can take it for granted that whatever they have said in those interviews will be their policy when they eventually get elected, and we can hold them accountable for the much they have said and they will still say. So basically what I want to do is to be able to compare. I probably will do some commentary, then you will also tell me, I want you to tell me, listen and tell me what you think about their respective position on electricity, and tell me who you think did better. Tell me who you think is making more sense. Tell me who you think is more realistic. Tell me who you think has a better and a more actionable policy or plan. So let's just get into the interview. Let's get to the part where Atiku talked about power, and then Peter Obi in the Channels interview that also happened the following day or thereabout, and how he also responded to the question bordering on power. You would agree with me that it is not out of place to say that power is probably the biggest challenge bedeviling the Nigerian economy today, and we really want to be tackling it, especially as the new administration gets elected and gets into office. So let's get into it and let's see the most that we can get out of this interview.
Sir, yesterday the national grid of Nigeria collapsed up to the point of zero output, the sixth time this year. And on your Twitter account, you tweeted that this is one collapse too many. It is the sixth time this is happening this year alone.
Yes.
That's part of your tweet. But there was an immediate rebuttal by Omoyele Sowore, who is also a presidential candidate in this race. And this is what he said. He said the national electrical grid collapse started when you and Obasanjo invested $16 billion to procure darkness for Nigeria. The Buhari regime came to gazette grid collapse as a law. Alhaji Atiku, don't pretend that you care about the national grid. We can't continue like this. That's another presidential candidate. What do you say to this allegation?
Well, he's my opponent. What do you expect him to say? He has all along lived outside this country. He doesn't even know the policy implementation or even the policy initiative. We started when we came in, the total generation was about 4,000 megawatts. we initiated the building of 9 additional power stations. 9. And by the time those 9 were finished, the capacity has gone up from 4 to about 13,000 megawatts. Unfortunately, no correspondent increase as far as the transmission lines are concerned. There is no way when your transmission lines cannot evacuate the power you are producing that they will not collapse. So they keep on collapsing. And these additional 9 power stations were completed by Jonathan Umaru, who was on it. He died, and Jonathan continued, and he completed them. So that's why any time there is an increase in the power generation, and then you have a transmission system that cannot evacuate the power, there will be a collapse. So he doesn't even know, because he lives outside this country. He comes every 4 years and contests for the presidency and goes back. He fails and goes back again. So what does Sowore know about this country? Nothing, absolutely nothing.
But what do you intend to do differently if you were to become president of Nigeria?
Let me just give you a story, what I tried to do even during our own administration.
Okay, I thought I should come in there. I think that the most that is said about Sowore is actually not exactly correct. You really cannot say that Sowore doesn't know much about power. That is another conversation, especially for a journalist who's been covering the Nigerian polity for way back, for almost a decade, if not more than. I personally do not accept that it's correct to say that Omoyele Sowore doesn't know much about power. And I think Atiku is also not correct to say that, Sowore contests election and goes back and he loses and goes back. That's not exactly correct. I think Sowore is actually based in Nigeria. At least since he returned to Nigeria and started to contest for the office of president, he's been based in Nigeria. Well, ironically, it appears that it's actually Atiku who is being moving out after he loses election and all of that. So I just thought I should sit with that. But having said that, I also think his position of power and what he plans to do with electricity, I think he's making sense. It does make some sense. It's seeming like a decent plan. It's seeming like something that is actionable, especially for someone who has had experience being in power before as vice president. Also played a key role in the economy, in terms of management of the economy. He played a very crucial role in the Obasanjo administration from 1999 to 2007. I think we probably may want to listen to Atiku and hear the most that he has to say. I feel that he probably has a decent plan beyond the fact that he functions in the private sector. He's actually had experience at the very highest level. So let's get to hear him out. Let's get to hear in all he has to say.
I went to the president. I said, look, Mr. President, let us decentralize both generation and transmission. He said, what the hell do you mean? I said, look, let's use various other sources of power. Hydro, solar, even coal. We're still a developing country. And then break, the concentration. And the president said, no, he believed more in gas. I said, gas is going to be a problem for us because gas is only available in one location. And then it will take us longer time to have a gas plant that will supply the whole of this country electricity. And by the time you do that, you will find that the electricity you'll be generating is too heavy for our transmission. But if you decentralize the generation like in my zone, the Northeast, we have too many dams. They are lying idle. All what we need to do is install turbines. And then with our current transmission system, we can transmit the electricity. If you go to the Northwest, they also have too many large dams idling. All what you need to do is install, distant turbines, and they generate electricity. If you go to the south, then you can use whatever form of energy is available, whether it is gas or hydro or even coal. After all, Mr. President, I said the entire eastern region was being supplied by by coal from Enugu at that time. So what is wrong? But unfortunately, we had a divergence or disagreement as far as that issue was concerned. And he said we must go on gas. And that was how we now started, the gas generating plants, additional 9. So I still believe it is something as a country we can consider to diversify our generation so that even with our current transmission lines, we can deliver, power to households and to everybody. It's a question of reviewing the policy.
So guys, so it would seem like Atiku actually, took a jibe at Sowore there. I'm going to bring you the much that Sowore said about that. Arise TV brought Sowore to their studios and they had to respond to the much that Atiku said about him in that earlier interview. And you will guess right that Sowore did not spare Atiku at all. So let's hear the much that Sowore said.
I mixed up a number of things, and I think it is because he is losing memory. Otherwise, he would have known that I've never, at any point in time in my life, left issues concerning Nigeria. In fact, for him and others, I was a source of news while they were in office. Happenings in their government. In fact, when Garba Shehu used to work with him as an essay, he used to send me documents from their side. I'm revealing it for the first time, so as to counter Obasanjo in those days at each other's neck. And he also said that they increased electricity during their period from 4,000 megawatts to 13,000 megawatts. That is not true. The highest Nigeria ever had is 13,000 megawatts. And that was done over the period of 16 to now 20 years that they've been in power. During their period, the highest was 7,500 megawatts, and the available megawatts for the public was 3,000. When Umaru Yar'Adua came, he pushed it to about 9,500 megawatts before he died. He's right that some other developments happened, and Jonathan completed their project, and they went to 12,000 megawatts. And Buhari, in his 7 years, only added 1,000 megawatts. But all along these periods, Nigeria only had available 5,500 megawatts. Till today, it has now collapsed to about 2,500 megawatts. So who builds and generates electricity without corresponding distribution or transmission? That is where they get it wrong. So you can't be telling me that, we just built all this electricity, but we don't have transmission lines to evacuate them. Does that make sense? This is why I said these guys have no business in government. It is time for them to quit, to retire, and even face consequences of the darkness they brought into this country. But my question to him, which he did not answer, was that you guys spent $16 billion to generate and procure darkness for Nigerians. He couldn't answer that. He then started talking about the fact that I come to contest every 4 years and go back. My first time contesting in Nigeria was in 2019. I have not left since then. I have not left. I've been here since that time. But he has left each time he contested. This is going to be his 7th time contesting. I started contesting in 1992 as a student union president. Atiku also contested during the SDP primaries against Abiola in 1992-1993 transition period. He lost. I won as a student union president. When the system collapsed, it was us that took over and made sure that we fought for that mandate. Atiku ran away. I don't know where he was between year 1993 and 1999, but he never left Nigeria. Each time he contests election, he leaves. One time, if his memory will serve him right, I met him at his mansion in Potomac near Washington, D.C. It turns out that it was a place they were using for money laundering. When it was discovered, they ran away with his wife. He didn't go back to the U.S., he moved to the U.K. Then I heard he had an island in Italy.
Well, those are hefty allegations. We're not.
No, I'm not. They're not. This is election season. People. Yeah. No, it's not character assassination. Mm-hmm. This is election season. I'm a candidate. He's a candidate.
Absolutely.
He called Tinubu to come for an interview, 1 hour interview. I'm inviting all of them for a 1 hour interview. Obi, Atiku, and Tinubu.
So guys, that was Sowore there. We can put all of this together. We can put the much that they said, the back and forth, and then we can probably look at documents and look at history and be able to tell who is really saying what and what actually the facts, especially as it concerns this power conversation. So let's leave that for now. Let's leave that. Probably we'll get back to Sowore and Atiku later. I guess it's not going to end there. Sowore also took a counter jibe. He's always doing that, and I know it's not going to stop here. More of that will definitely come as the campaigns, get underway, as the elections draw, even closer. Okay, guys, that was Atiku Abubakar. So tell me what you think about his position on power, on what he intends to do with electricity when he gets into power. Now, like I did say before we continue the interview, I did say that it seems to be making sense. I think that the idea which he claims that he suggested to President Olusegun Obasanjo way back of decentralizing power generation, I think that does make sense. You want to be able to decentralize power generation instead of having to rely on same source or method of generating power. How about letting the various sections of the country bring in the most they can possibly bring in power generation. For example, in the north, where you've had hydro generation, you can focus on that and make the best of that. And in the south, where you have crude oil and a lot of gas, resources, then you can use gas, to generate from the south. And then in the east, you possibly may want to consider maybe coal as it used to be, or any other form, maybe even hydro. Even in the south side, there's a lot of water bodies. You can probably build dams and I think it does make sense. It's looking like some decent policy, some decent plan, although that did not get to materialize because President Olusegun Obasanjo, as Atiku claimed, did not really buy the idea. Rather, he wanted to focus on gas generation instead. So Atiku is saying that if he gets elected, he's going to get back to that plan and he will have a first-hand opportunity to implement that, where each of the various regions or sections of the country can take advantage of the resources within its locality to generate power, if possible. And I think that will help greatly in generating a lot of capacity in terms of power generation for Nigeria. So what do you think? I think it does make sense. I think it's looking like a decent plan. But tell me what you think, especially as I am also going to compare this with Peter Obi, who was also asked the same question in a kind of a follow-up interview that Channels did just after this Atiku interview with Arise TV. And let's hear the most that Peter Obi said on how he's going to solve power generation.
The issue of electricity is one thing that, aside security, perhaps the second most important thing that Nigerians think that needs to be resolved. You went to Egypt, and your agenda, as you said, was to look at what Egypt did differently in terms of electricity. So what did you learn on that trip? And perhaps what is the take home for you? And if you were elected, how do you hope to resolve the electricity problem in Nigeria? How long can it take you?
First and foremost, let me start by referring you to go and read what the Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore said and the ruler of Dubai. Ruler of Dubai, their own being recent, he said what he does is to learn from other countries what they're doing right and bring it back to Dubai and do it right. So for me, I go to where I think people have done the right things to learn. Egypt, Vietnam, and India have deployed the fastest electricity program in the past 5 years. Egypt moved their power generation, transmission and distribution from about 20,000 to over 55,000 today within 5 years. So for me, in a country like ours of 200 million people, generating only about 4,000, when the second biggest in terms of economy in Africa, being South Africa, generating over 50,000, and Egypt generating over 50,000. The experience of Egypt, I decided to go and learn. I visited the power plant to see what they were able to do within that 5 years visited the power plant, visited the company that executed the project, had a very useful meeting with the CEO of the company, visited the power holding company of Egypt, and other agencies that are involved to learn what they did, as well as visited the financiers of the project. What they were able to do, all I can tell you, can easily happen here. And my commitment is that Nigeria can be able to generate, transmit, and distribute 15,000 megawatts within a 4-year period of a government. Because in Egypt, their target was 5 years, but the way the plans were executed, they were achieved under 3 years. But it has to be a holistic thing with everybody hands-on and followed religiously. It was an easy thing, and I spoke to everybody, like I said, from the construction company to the power holding company to the financiers and everything. It can be done here, and it is one of the things that I'm totally committed to making a difference of. And it is critical. You can't talk about production without talking about power. It is ensured that for every 1,000 megawatts of electricity you're able to produce, you'll probably be adding almost 1% to your GDP. So it is critical, 1% growth. So it is critical for us to do that as aggressively as possible. Nigeria today, with our population, and if we're going to make any meaningful step in being productive, requires at least 30,000 megawatts of electricity. It will be difficult, but I assure you that we will achieve half of that as quickly as possible.
Okay, guys, so you heard Peter Obi there, and I want you to be able to compare. You heard the much that Atiku said, and now Peter Obi. So who do you think has a more decent plan? Who do you think has a more reasonable plan? Who do you think has a more actionable plan in terms of solving the power challenge in Nigeria? Now, Peter Obi has said that he went to Egypt to see the much that they are doing there, and obviously Egypt is now a model, especially within Africa. He also mentioned India. Looking at the much that Egypt had done, generating about 30,000 megawatts within 5 years or thereabouts, I think that is something enviable, and there is no out of place for Peter Obi to want to copy that model. But beyond just copying and beyond just going to visit Egypt, beyond just looking at what some other countries are doing out there, you want to also compare to Atiku Abubakar, who probably has had some level of experience in government, being vice president and playing a major role in the economy management, and you want to say that comparing the most that Peter Obi has said and Atiku Abubakar. So I want to hear from you. Who do you think is making more sense? Who do you think has a more actionable plan? Who do you think has a more decent response to the power challenge? So I'm putting this on your table. I want you to be able to give me some feedback, and I promise I will also respond to your comments. We are having a conversation here. Now I've been able to chip in some little commentary here and there. I don't want to just dump my thoughts on you. I want you to respond. I want you to compare both. Both of them have stated, at least on the surface, the much that they want to do with power, which I think is quite detailed enough. So I want to now hear what you think, and which of these plans and policy or ideas you think is more convincing. If you were going to vote today, listening to this on how they will solve the power problem, Atiku and Peter Obi, which would you be voting for? Which would you say has a more convincing plan to, make you want to put your thumb on their ballot and make you want to say, okay, I want to go with this, I want to vote for this or that because of the much they have said. So let me hear your views. Let me hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comment section. I would also, comment, and we can have a decent conversation. And please, guys, I will not stop asking you to subscribe. And I thank all of my new subscribers. I thank all of you who have been supporting me here. Subscribing, liking, sharing is big support for me here. And I really would love you to share, this, bring in your community, bring in your friends, get them to subscribe. You'll be doing a lot for me when you do that. And please don't be a stranger here. Let us continue the conversation. Let's keep the polity buzzing. My Naija people will not do well. What's up, my Naija people? How una dey? My name is Efe Cole Amadin, a political activist, public affairs commentator, and writer, multimedia practitioner, and business person. My goal is to promote political participation